Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. At the December 7th meeting of the Bloomington City Council, staff liaison for the Bloomington Council for Community Accessibility, Michael Shermis, spoke on behalf of the resolution to update the city's Americans with Disabilities Transition Plan.
A plan is required to try to move a city towards full ADA compliance. It's probably never achievable, but we should always be talking about it. It is a joint effort amongst many departments, and especially, I'll just name planning and transportation, engineering, public works, parks and rec.
The current chairperson of the Bloomington Council for Community Accessibility, Leslie Davis, emphasized the importance of a city having an ADA transition plan and the willingness of the CCA to assist the council in implementing the resolution.
Because there are no ADA cops, essentially. It's organizations like ours, like the Council for Community Accessibility, and ADA transition plans that really allow a city to put itself kind of out in front of that law that we're all meant to uphold in the US. And the CCA, Council for Community Accessibility, is here to help you and anyone in the community who has questions about how do I make this inclusive for people with disabilities.
The City Council approved the resolution unanimously. On December 7th, at the Monroe County Commissioners meeting, Monroe County Health Administrator Lori Kelly gave an update on the rising cases of the COVID Omicron variant and influenza.
Just wanted to give a few updates. We are monitoring the rise in cases of Omicron variants BQ.1.1 and BQ.1. They are now accounting for approximately 63% of cases. Around 50% of the United States is reporting moderate to high COVID levels and wastewater samples. Of these sites, 22% are seeing some of the highest virus levels in samples since December 1st of 2021. Wow. Indiana is seeing high levels of influenza. The predominant strain is influenza A. This is included in the current makeup of the flu vaccine. Flu shots and all vaccines are available at the public health clinic. You can call 812-334-8374 for an appointment.
Commissioner Julie Thomas thanked Kelly for the update and reminded the public that it is not too late to get vaccinated. Later, the commissioners heard from County Attorney Jeff Cockerell, who presented an amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding with the Monroe County Convention Center.
Yes, as I'm sure you're all well aware that the county has operated the convention center for a number of years. We do that with a partnership with the Convention Center Management Company, which is associated with Downtown Bloomington, Inc. This year, the county council set the rate at $400,000 for their services, and so this is an amount that has been appropriated. And again, this is for the county's continued operation contract for the county convention center.
Commissioner Penny Githens said the rate has not been increased since 2014 and agreed it was time. Journalist Dave Askins asked how the convention center management is funded. Convention Center Management Company Executive Director Talisha Kopic responded.
This contract is funded solely by the revenue generated at the convention center from room rentals and the percentage. The funds generated at that building are turned over to a Monroe County Convention Center dedicated revenue account, and it's a management fee to operate the current convention center. This is a 5% increase, as Penny Commissioner Githens mentioned, it's been since 2014 since we've raised this, covers basic management expenses of personnel, audit, insurance, office supplies, those types of activities. But it sets out the responsibilities for our team and to follow, to manage the convention center.
The commissioners unanimously approved the Convention Center Management Agreement Amendment. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the Monroe County Council's December 6th meeting, County Attorney Jeff Cockerell introduced a request from Oliver Winery for a 7-year tax abatement.
This came before the county council last month as a preliminary approval pursuant to, and this is for a personal property tax abatement for the Oliver Winery expansion project. This is a request for a tax abatement for personal property only. It's for a 7-year period, and they're requesting 100% of the amount of personal property tax to be abated. I'll talk about that more after the public hearing, but and so this is kind of the second we've given notice. We've had the related documents available in the assessor's office, and so this is to allow people to come in and tell you what they think about the request.
During public comment on the tax abatement request, Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce member Jim Shelton explained that they want Oliver Winery to expand their business here rather than look elsewhere.
We urge you to support this as we did when it came up a month ago. And as we said then, Oliver Winery has been a wonderful corporate citizen here, provide a lot of jobs to a lot of people, and we encourage you to encourage them to grow. As they explained, they have the opportunity to grow in some other places too, and we want them to have their growth be here and have them continue to be great corporate citizens. So please approve this.
Bloomington Economic Development Corporation Business Development Director Clark Greiner also supported the abatement.
As you know, Oliver Wine Company is a world-class maker of fine wines here in our community. They intend to expand and add new state-of-the-art equipment if the abatement is granted. They are a wonderful organization, have been part of our community for 50 plus years, and they just have so much passion for the community. They are considered one of the largest wineries in the U.S. right now, I think ranking about 28th. And as a result of that, they are also considered by Travel and Leisure a top 25 winery to visit in the U.S. Back in 2017. And in early 2021, they developed a relationship with Next Phase Capital to help them continue to scale up for future growth. And that is always a great sign. So, and then in October of 2022, Oliver Winery was named an Impact Blue Chip brand by the publisher of Wine Spectator magazine. And it's an award given to the best performing major players in the wine industry over the long term. So they're committed to that. They're also committed to the community. They constantly invest back into our community through donations that they make to the American Cancer Society, Hoosier Hill Food Bank, New Hope for Family, local Rotary clubs, and many, many others.
After the public hearing, Cockrell shared some additional information, saying Oliver Winery plans to hire more employees and explaining how the council and the winery settled on the 7-year abatement.
Just remind you that they currently have 63 employees. Their application indicated that this would add another 21 employees to that. And their average starting wage is over $21 an hour. If you include benefits, it's closer to $30 per hour for the employees. At last month's meeting, we talked a lot about the difference between a 7-year 100% personal property tax abatement versus for what their original request was, which was a standard tax abatement for 10 years for both real and personal property. I think you should have gotten a copy of kind of a real simplified spreadsheet, which show that the difference that they're paying is they're actually going to be paying $125,341 more based upon those estimates. As you all know, our tax rates change all the time, and that could be affected that way. But I thought you guys had requested that information.
Council member Jennifer Crossley asked when Oliver Winery would hire the 21 new employees. She cautioned that Bloomington offered a tax abatement to Catalent with the promise of new jobs, and they recently laid off around 400 workers. Cockrell responded.
I just had one quick question because not to address the elephant that's happening in the city right now, in terms of what happened with Catalent. I know we're different, but in some regards, maybe not. But in terms of, you said adding 21 more jobs, how long, like what's the time span of that?
They indicated that those jobs will be added in between the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And just so you know, that information we reference a memorandum of understanding. That information gets placed in the memorandum of understanding that the county council president signs, as well as the business companies sign, business representative signs, so that everybody knows what we're talking about and what that means.
The council approved the request unanimously. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the December 6th meeting of the Bloomington Board of Public Works, City Attorney Mike Ruker informed the board that they need to develop protocols for allowing private art in the public right-of-way. The concern stems from a lawsuit where the city denied a student's proposal to install an All Lives Matter mural on Kirkwood Avenue near the Sample Gates. Ruker requested that in the meantime, the board should place a moratorium on considering special event permit applications until the policies are revised.
On November 18th, 2022, in an ongoing case involving Bloomington, the Federal District Court for the Southern District of Indiana issued an order directing the city to promulgate protocols involving the installation of private art in the public right-of-way. The court ordered the city to adopt those protocols by January 2nd, 2022. In an effort to comply with that order, staff from multiple departments have been working on a policy, and we had originally hoped to have that policy ready for the board's consideration tonight. Unfortunately, we're still working on it, and so we don't have it quite ready for the board to consider. You will have noted that the original agenda had included the policy as an item on the agenda, but it's not there any longer. We do anticipate bringing a policy to the board at the board's regularly scheduled December 20th meeting. That's the last meeting before that January 2nd deadline that was ordered by the court. However, in the interim, in the past, we've seen private individuals and groups utilize the special event application process as a way to request the installation of private art in the right-of-way. Because the city is in the process of revising the protocols that govern the installation of private art in the public right-of-way, and the protocols are uncertain at this moment, both for the public and the board, we are requesting as an interim measure that the board place a moratorium on consideration of special event permit applications until such time as a policy is adopted. Again, we anticipate the policy would be adopted on December 20th, and we further anticipate that at the December 20th meeting, after the policy is adopted, this board could consider any pending applications for special events in that same meeting. And so we're asking you to please approve Resolution 22-90, which accomplishes that moratorium.
During public comment, local journalist Dave Askins asked how the temporary moratorium would impact Freeze Fest. Board member Kyla Cox-Deckard explained why Freeze Fest was removed from the board's agenda. Ruker elaborated that the moratorium could affect Freeze Fest.
So following up on Mr. Alexander's question about Freeze Fest, the inference I drew from the fact that Freeze Fest was not a part of the consent agenda, and given the current item on the temporary moratorium, was that Freeze Fest is exactly the kind of special event application to install private art in the public right-of-way, and that's why it's not on. And I was just hoping to get confirmation of that fact. Thanks.
Because this moratorium affects all special event applications, Freeze Fest is a special event application, so it's my assumption that that, first off, is why it was removed from the consent agenda. I think that it does include art. That art could be subject to that review as well, once we know what the policy is going to include.
Just to confirm that as well, I think we would want to make sure, given that the policy is in flux right now and we do have a pending special event application that does involve something that might be captured by the policy, we just want to make sure that all of the rules are clear, everything is updated so that this board and the public and applicants and everybody knows what the rules are for special events that involve the installation of art. I do think that the public commenter is correct. That could potentially impact the special event that he referenced.
The moratorium on the consideration of special events applications passed unanimously. Next, the board considered a contract with E&G Paving, LLC for a traffic calming project on Maxwell Lane. Project manager Sarah Gomez explained the contract.
We'll construct traffic calming devices along East Maxwell Lane from Henderson Street to Woodlawn Avenue. Traffic calming devices include but are not limited to speed humps, pavement markings, and signs. This traffic calming project was prioritized through the city's resident-led process of the Traffic Calming and Greenways program. The project will be funded by line 601-07-07-0000-54310. Maintenance of traffic and road closure. The construction is scheduled for 2023 to last 30 days with completion by August 8th, 2023. Most work will be completed with short duration mobile operations. Quotes were received at a Board of Public Works work session on Monday, December 5th, 2022. The board received the following two quotes. E&B Paving, LLC, $36,900. Milestone Contractors, $98,851. E&B Paving, LLC was the apparent lowest responsive and responsible quoter. We request that the board approve the contract for the Maxwell Lane Traffic Calming Project with E&B Paving.
Local resident Betty Rosenagel, who lives near Maxwell Lane, asked the board if there was a more descriptive explanation of the project. She also questioned why a stop sign was not considered for the traffic calming project.
Some neighbors have been told that there are going to be 4 speed tables or humps in the space of 4 blocks, and that seems excessive. So is that what's happening, 4 speed humps? That's one question. And the other is that, is there a reason for not putting a stop sign somewhere in between Woodlawn and Henderson. That's not a very long distance. But if there is a reason, is it that the traffic gurus claim people don't stop at stop signs?
Project engineer Neil Copper replied to Rosennagel's question, expanding on the design of the project and the stop sign issue.
When the quotes were put out, there was a very explicit plan set included in those quotes, so the contractors were bidding on very specific items. It was not just a general description that was read here tonight. There are 4 speed humps planned for that stretch. It's a 4-block long section from Woodlawn to Henderson. It's basically 1 speed hump per block. We did actually evaluate whether we could do less speed humps within that section and still have effective traffic calming. Unfortunately, with the spacing of the intersections and the desire to slow down traffic before they cross through those intersections, before they cross the marked crosswalks in the area, we felt that 4 would be the most feasible alternative that we looked at. Regarding stop signs instead of speed humps, so stop signs do a good job of slowing people down at one point location. They do not slow people down throughout a corridor. There are actually studies showing that if you put stop signs, at regular intervals on a street, that drivers can actually speed up in between stop signs, trying to make up lost time. So by having kind of more continuous traffic calming through a corridor, you can get a more regular and lower speed as opposed to having stop signs where you have high speeds in between them and low speeds right at the stop sign. So if you really wanted to try to slow people down at all of the intersections in between, you'd have to put a stop sign at every single intersection. I don't think I would say that people don't stop at stop signs, but I would say that people tend to lose respect for stop signs that don't meet certain guidelines. So if you go through a stop sign every day and you never see any cross traffic and you never see any reason that you would need to stop, then you start rolling through the stop sign. Some people start ignoring it altogether because you don't see any reason why that stop sign is there. As opposed to a stop sign that is higher volume and you are often waiting for somebody, you know you have to stop there. You know there are conflicts that you're paying attention to.
The board unanimously approved the contract. During the December 5th meeting of the Community Justice Response Committee, the joint panel of county and city officials continued their conversation on the potential new jail. Jail Commander Sam Crow said the jail programs are not effective for mental health treatment. He said the community should do a better job of providing mental health services before someone enters the jail.
Well, I think it's already been said in these meetings, but jail programs may not be the best thing. I think we need to work on diversion before they come to the jail, especially with mental health. And I think that's a key thing, is getting them someplace where they can get the help they need with people that are trained to do it, rather than putting them in jail where they may be delayed getting their medication until we can get the records back and things like that. But we receive very little training in mental health. So we're not the people to do training for mental health. That needs to be somebody that's trained. So therefore the diversion pre-arrest.
County Council member Jennifer Crossley agreed, saying the treatment conversation should happen before someone is incarcerated.
One of the things that I think that we can do is use a nice amount of ARPA funds to go to some of these treatment facilities, which is listed, New Leaf, New Life, Silver Living, and other places as well. But I also think that most importantly, the biggest thing in terms of treatment facility is, before we move forward with any of this, we all are somewhat knowledgeable of those things. But I would really think that it would be nice in future meetings to have those that are part of those particular treatment facilities and whatnot be a part of the discussions where they can educate us further, so that we understand, what is needed, not just what we are assuming what is truly needed. As we had heard from past meetings, and I have my notes here on my computer and lots of notes all over the place here. People keep talking about, being severely underfunded. And that seems to be the biggest issue is how do we get those organizations to not be so severely underfunded, but to be funded so that they can help a lot more, and we don't have the weights and different types of things like that. So I think that is the biggest thing. And then I also agree with Kate in terms of housing. Housing is justice. Transitional halfway housing for people in the process of getting back to their feet and being rehabilitated. And then, of course, most importantly, being able to work with probation. Those are the biggest things in terms of treatment that I would see.
Next, Commissioner Lee Jones transitioned to discussing the jail design and construction following the Plan Commission's negative recommendation to rezone the site on Fullerton Pike.
We obviously have not got anywhere with the jail design. I think, as I said before, we're now trying to get on the city council's agenda for the rezone for the land that we're purchasing. And we are hoping to get that done by the end of the year. At the same time, we're trying to make arrangements we have a purchase agreement that we would buy it by the end of the year. And we're trying to get that extended just in case things don't move that quickly.
Monroe County Commissioner Julie Thomas confirmed that the Fullerton Pike rezone was not included on this week's City Council agenda, further delaying the rezone initiative. During public comment, Care Not Cage's supporter Max Smith said that he has reservations about building a new facility. He said the community should better fund the resources that we already have rather than constructing a new facility.
A little bit about me, I'm formerly incarcerated. I think I had the record at the jail for a while for most consecutive days. I'm also a contractor. I was on the board of New Leaf for a few years. So I'd also like the conversation about getting to people before they become incarcerated. And I personally believe that a lack of sense of community is why people, for a number of reasons, become incarcerated. Mental health issues. I'd like us to think more about, instead of building a new facility, think about how we can use what we have. New Leaf, New Life is one of the few not-for-profits that has managed to not get entangled in the criminal justice system. And for that reason, people, who struggle, trust them. And, that's not the case with Centerstone and some of the other, even Amethyst House and some of the other places that provide care for people, but are also woven into the government system. And so all those things together, to me, it makes more sense to figure out how to let the people who have been doing this work for years and who know, cops do what they, are supposed to do. They're not social workers, and the jail does what it's supposed to do, hold people until their fate is determined. Social work is not something that either of those either of those things should do.
The next Community Justice Response Committee meeting will take place at 4:30 p.m. on Monday, December 19th. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.